Hi everyone and welcome to Priority Holder, and today we're doing another Dominaria United Premier Draft. Let's see what happens. Okay, so some interesting picks. Radadrabic is our rare. It's fine, it's not like amazing, but I'm still firmly in heavy rare drafting mode because I play a lot of constructed, so we're trying to get those rares and mythics. So yeah, we're gonna pick Radadrabic. If that wasn't there, or if you weren't picking that, I'd probably pick the Cleaving Skyrider, but yeah, we're definitely picking Radadrabic. Interesting pick. Nothing like, if there was like a Lightning Strike, I would take that, or something really good. But I mean, a strong black-white uncommon to follow with like a reasonable black-white rare. Might as well give it a shot. At this point in the draft is what I'm thinking. And don't think I've tried Aeron at this point, but it's a card I'm really fond of, actually. So another interesting pick. Right away I'm drawn to Hero's Heirloom. It's a reasonable equipment. It's like almost like just a Volshock Morningstar for those old school people, and which is decent. But with Aeron, so the legendary clause, which makes the equipment interesting. But the token maker is really interesting with Aeron, since it gives them a lot of fodder to sack and also bodies to accumulate 1/1 counters with. So decided to pick that one, but the equipment was interesting to see. And already we could see a Citizen's Arrest. So Artillery Blast is fine, but Citizen's Arrest is more general. And yeah, very happy with that. Also, the rare land, or the common land, would be nice, but some pretty strong picks already in our colors. So this is looking like drafting the easy way at this point. So we'll see if there's anything that shows up that pushes us off black-white, but right now it's looking like we're getting fed some decent cards from there. Okay, so I like the Keldon Strike team. I like the white tap down spell decently, but there's a rare Thran Portal. It's not amazing. Honestly, it feels like it had like one too many nerfs put on it as far as constructed / limited power level. But it's a rare, so we're grabbing it. All right, up next. So I firmly grabbed the Bone Splinters, though looking back, maybe I should have grabbed Heroic Charge with the sort of token theme emerging. Hard to say. I played against Heroic Charge a bit at this point, but I have not actually used it myself. So I know some people are big fans of it. And I can see the packs piling up on my neighbor. They might have timed out, or maybe they're new to drafting, but they have like 6 of them already. And now they have 7. So they almost have every single pack at this point. And that happens sometimes, it's fine. Alright, so we got Phyrexian Warhorse and Destroy Evil. Pretty clear Destroy Evil here. Phyrexian Warhorse is great, love that card, but Destroy Evil has turned out to be like an extremely strong removal spell with all the really high toughness walls and just massive creatures and all the colors that you want to take care of. Like Maria's Outrider and like the 4/6 green Treefolk and all sorts of things. Okay, so we got the Vanguard, we got Urborg Repossession, we got the blue-black land. Could pick up a shield wall just, in case we open a Wingmantle Chaplain or something. But with the token theme we have going on, I'm sort of drawn to the Vanguard. Maybe it's better to grab the blue-black land since Vanguard's like fairly replaceable, but we have a little bit of token things going on, and Aeron's already encouraging us to go wide, so decide to take it here. Not like the shielding spell is fine, but I think the land's more valuable. Very happy to pick up a Phyrexian Warhorse. I don't think Pilfer's that amazing. There's just, yeah, it doesn't, like, the targeted discard doesn't seem super strong in my experience in this format. Whereas Phyrexian Warhorse is basically outperformed every time I played it. So we have Relic, potential splashing, but we wield the Hero's Heirloom. And that actually seems pretty good here with our tokens, you know, make them more relevant creatures, but also for the potential upside on attaching it to our legends. So not unhappy at all about picking up the Hero's Heirloom. Grab the rest of the pack, and then our rare is Defiler of Vigor. So there's no chance in us splashing it at all, but like I said, firmly rare drafting at this point. Otherwise, you know, there's a handful of cards I would have picked. Maybe Destroy Evil or the 2/1 flyer. We're snatching up that Defiler for later, like, Explorer shenanigans. We'll see what we can do with that one later. Okay, so we got Urborg Repossession. We got the, like, Temporary Indestructible. And Shadow Prophecy. Shadow Prophecy is a strong card. You don't even have to go super heavy into Domain. It's already just at its baseline at instant speed Divination, which is perfectly fine. And more land types just means you get a little bit more selection, which we do have a little bit of land types going on in our mana base, so we're taking that over Take Up the Shield. Alright, so there's a rare card we're going to be taking, Caves of Koilos. And it actually works in this deck. It can help make our mana a little bit better, so... Okay, so we have Radha's Firebrand. It's not the kind of card you really want to splash, since it's best when it comes down early. Really sad to pass Cult Conscript, though. That'd be really strong in this deck with Aaron. Alright, what do we got next? Yeah, not much choice there. Was glancing at the cards and all of a sudden saw Extinguish the Light, and that's an amazing pickup this late. It helps us feel better about the color combo we chose. And what do you know, Occult Conscript. So we passed one earlier. Very happy to see one now. I mean, it's good with Bone Splinters, good with, like, the sacrifice shenanigans. So huge fan of Cult Conscript. If we're lucky, maybe we'll get the other one also. Alright, so this still has a lingering rare. It's not any use to our deck. Urza assembles the Titans. I like playing Super Friends. Maybe we'll make that work sometime, but yeah. Grabbing that for the constructed pool of cards for the future. Splatter Goblin. Mesa Cavalier is also consideration. Our curves needs a little bit help at this point, so I'm leaning towards Splatter Goblin, but I do like Mesa Cavalier quite a bit. Meteorite, Automatic Librarian are not seeming great here. Or Urborg Repossession's a maybe. We do have, like, the one rare land that could get us there so far. On the kicker, at least. And considering Aggressive Sabotage, it's not a high priority card in our style of deck, but it could get there. Really nice late Writhing Necromass, and also a Heroic Charge. I grabbed the Necromass, but maybe that was a huge mistake. Maybe I should have grabbed Heroic Charge. And just... Urborg Repossessions are just flowing like crazy, so... But yeah, just scanning over what we have. Keeping Radha's... the red Radha's Firebrand inside there for now. Mostly out of the optimism of, like, a couple natural red sources that we have. But it's in all likelihood getting cut. And Thrill of Possibility is our last pick. And what do we got? And whammy, wow. Archangel of Wrath. Incredible. Not only is it on color, but like on color as far as the splashing also. We already have, you know, black sources, of course, and red sources. So about the best thing we could have asked for. So definitely slamming Archangel and just checking what else we might end up wheeling. But yeah, Archangel of Wrath was a huge hit there. Very strong card. Okay, so we're going to rare draft the Ivy, but besides Heroic Charge, we're honestly not missing basically anything in this pack. It's sort of a lean one for our strategy and our colors. Alright, so we got the Saltmarsh. Griffin Protector I do like. Also the sort of enlist flying creature, but at this point we could strengthen our mana base seems a little more important. Yeah, check in the creature count to make sure it's not a huge mistake to grab a land here. And we had to remember that some of our cards are non-creatures but make creatures, so... See, I'm very tempted by Griffin Protector. We're also loaded up on 4 mana spells, so I'll let the Griffin go. Would have been nice to get the Balduvian Atrocity or the Eerie Soul Tender, but another rare means we're grabbing it. Interesting pick here. We can grab the red-white land to strengthen our Archangel, you know, kicker splash, maybe even justify Rada's Firebrand. So end up taking it. So there's a Lightning Strike, and there's also Semi-Herbalist, and you can see me, you know, checking red sources, checking creature count, like, should we splash Lightning Strike? And, you know, yeah, checking creature count, make sure we have enough, because the Semi-Herbalist is not spectacular, but it could do the job in like lowering our curve and stuff. So you could see me last second switch over to the Herbalist. It's exciting to try and splash, but you gotta be disciplined sometimes. And honestly, Lightning Strike has not been super amazing in this format, especially like on a splash. I don't think it's very recommended. Yeah, another sort of dry one. I mean, there's Joda's Codex. That doesn't look super likely, but you know, we could get there. All right, so quite a few choices. We have Sengir Connoisseur, Argivian Phalanx, and another Semi-Herbalist. Not a lot of experience at this point with any of them, but decide just to take the uncommon flyers to see how it is. Banalish Faith Bonder. You know, not incredible, but it could be a serviceable 2-mana creature. Once again, passing Heroic Charge. Maybe that's a huge mistake. Let me know in the comments what you think about that, but do end up getting a Griffin Protector anyway. And wow, we got both the black cards back from this, so we have our choice of Balduvian Atrocity or the Eerie Soul Tender. End up going for the Atrocity, and wow, you know, pick, what is it, pick 14, 13, Phyrexian Warhorse. So we have a billion 4-mana spells. You could consider the Warhorse as 5-mana spells also. So now it's time to build, you know, make the cuts and see what we got going on. So I think it's pretty clear here. We're just going to cut red entirely, except for the Archangel splashing we have going on. Yeah, so you could see me counting red sources and just trying to make sure, but yeah, Rada's Firebrand is just not going to happen. And that already brings us down to 40 cards, 15 creatures, 8 non-creatures. And honestly, it looks pretty good. Little crammed at the 4 position, but we're going for it. And yeah, this is a great hand. Lacking the second white to actually cast Archangel. But I mean, you're not going to send a hand like this back. Shadow Prophecy might help us get there as far as our mana situation. Okay, so still no white source, but managed to draw a 2-mana creature, which we're very happy about. The Phyrexian Vivisector. And if they kill it, we just get the Scry, so very happy about that. Cult Conscript is actually really clutch here. The question is, do we cast Shadow Prophecy or just play the Cult Conscript? So, you know, we're lacking our land, so it's a tough decision. You know, do we play out the aggression, or do you try and fish for lands for like our... We have a lot of high mana spells in hand. We want those lands. Opt to just play the extra pressure right now with the Cult Conscript. And Shield Wall Sentinel, well, we're up against defenders. Let's see how this goes. Okay, so sometimes the players will chain Shield Wall Sentinels into each other for a while before grabbing Wingmantle Chaplain. They just cut to the chase and grab the Wingmantle Chaplain right away. Opt to hold on to Archangel of Wrath. If we can get enough mana colors for kicking it, we might be able to use it to shoot down the Chaplain later on. So that's why I played the Token Maker. But we could see already that we're basically not going to get through on the ground. Opponent has a ton of walls. So we're going to have to get more creative to win this one. And fortunately, the two cards we have are pretty good. We have a land and a 3/3 flyer, which is going to be great in this situation. Send it back to the opponent. Let's see, do they crank out Wingmantle at this point? Yep, here it comes. So, Wingmantle Chaplain. And already they have 3 1/1 flyers. Or, sorry, tokens. Oh yeah. So I left this into the edit because I very nearly completely lost connection there and like almost lost a turn. So that was me narrowly dodging like a huge disconnect moment, and that would have opponent would have ran away with the game right there. Us missing this critical turn right here. So that was really rough. But thankfully we have Bone Splinter sacking a token to take down Wingmantle Chaplain. Hopefully. They could have like the blue hexproof instant right now. Semi-Herbalist, you know, it needs to attack to get much value. It's not getting through any attacks on the ground, so scry that to the bottom. And decide to play Hero's Heirloom. That's actually going to make our ground forces more relevant, because if we stick that on the Cult Conscript's annoying because it's recursive. And that's going to boost it up to 4 power, which can knock through any of the creatures they have. So, and we don't mind them like, you know, blocking that down with a lot of creatures because we can get it back later. So they decide to cash in their Battlefly to kill our Cult Conscript, but we get another scry for our troubles, and Aaron seems pretty good here. Our mana situation is a little awkward still, but him making our creatures more relevant is important. But opponent plays their own Aaron and their own Toxic Abomination. Aaron is a huge problem for us here because they have a lot of flyers and they can just sacrifice walls or expendable creatures at this point to make them all really big. So we take this chance to use Archangel to shoot down one of them before Aaron starts growing them too big. Okay, so they have another wall and another Wingmantle Chaplain. That's a problem. Now they have 6 birds. Thankfully we have Archangel, which is dissuading any attacks, and Aaron requires like a decent amount of mana to like activate its counter ability, and wow, that's clutch. We draw an Extinguish the Light, and you know, do you kill Aaron or do you kill Wingmantle Chaplain here? I was actually more scared of Aaron at this point, growing them too big. So I figured anyway, it's a tough spot either way, but ended up leaving Wingmantle Chaplain alive for the moment, which is a very scary spot to be in. Alright, so opponent attacks in. It's sort of suspicious with the 3/2 coming in. Not quite sure. Trying to understand what they could have from their perspective. Some sort of like a death touch combat trick, but they just had a Gibbering Barricade up. It looks like that was their plan for any blocks that went awry. So we fall to 15. We get a scry. And with that little sacrifice trick the opponent did, they deny us the life gain from Archangel. Now, we have an artillery blast on top, but that can only deal damage to tapped creatures. And I decided to keep it because they have the tapper wall, which could lock down our Archangel. And so anticipating them eventually tapping it down, I attack in just to try and lock in some life gain. I was surprised they didn't just tap it down with the wall right there. But just trying to shore up our defenses, play another flyer, and hoping to snipe their tapping wall with the artillery blast at some point. Okay, Tolarian Geyser, they basically time walk us right there. And they're gonna smack. Okay, so they did not attack for some reason there. I guess they figured they can't really race the life linker profitably, so I guess it makes sense. But yeah, they do not attack in. Archangel is just holding us in this thing right here. Without it, we would have been in big, big trouble. Another wall gets another bird. And it's, you know, we're surviving, but it feels like they're just one removal piece away from like cracking this game open in their favor. So put the Hero's Heirloom on our flyer. And yeah, I was hoping that would happen. I was trying to bait them into actually using the tapper. So they do use it right there. They're out of blue mana, or out of like shield mana. So take this opportunity to shoot down their tapper wall. And for our troubles, we get a counter on our Sengir Connoisseur. And so the mana worked out pretty nice, because now we can play Aeron. And we still have a bit of defense. So our flyers are a lot bigger and badder than theirs, but they have the possibility to just keep getting more and more of them with Wing Mantle out unopposed. So they play another flyer, and we finally draw a removal piece. So opt to just attack in right here. So this, I actually thought a while before executing this attack and realized if they didn't think carefully, we have just a massive onboard trick to blow them out right here. And they did fall into our trap. So they put exactly enough power to kill our vampire as is. They put 5 power to kill it. The thing is, though, is that we have Aeron at instant speed. So if we sacrifice a token, the vampire will get a counter from its own ability, and then another counter from Aeron's ability. So they end up using Artillery Blast to take down Aeron, because they could see it could get out of hand quickly with the Archangel and the vampire getting absolutely huge. But as far as the combat on their turn, the damage is already done. Because now they're going to be blocking with so many creatures, and they're not even going to kill our vampire. So that was an instance we were able to walk them into an onboard trick right there. So they do get a card back from Talus Lookout. But now they're running out of birds, and we have 2 massive flyers for them to deal with. And we get to follow up with the Citizen's Arrest to take down Wingmantle Chaplain. The question is, do you play Cult Conscript here, or you hold up Destroy Evil? Decide just to play Cult Conscript, since a creature of ours died. Opponent rips Shadow Prophecy, getting an extra loot from their Academy wall. And the game's slipping away. We've dealt with 2 Wingmantle Chaplains, but the flyers they have can't really hold back ours very well at all. And they pack it in, so amazing win against double Wingmantle Chaplain and a very strong Defender's deck. Let's see what the next one goes like. Alright, Splatter Goblin. We don't have a Splatter Goblin, but we have a Semi-Herbalist. So opponent surprisingly does not attack in. I was trying to understand what that meant, but we are definitely attacking in because we get to scry and gain a life. Thran Portal is not the greatest land, but we have a pretty high costing. We could cast Phyrexian Warhorse for 5. We have the Vampire for 5, so even though it's not an ideal land, we end up keeping it here and following up with the Aeron. So They play a Faith Bonder. We get a free Menace attack in. And yeah, we have time, so I want to get the full value on Warhorse. So I'm not concerned about casting it right now. And we have some domain payoffs. Like there was an argument for turning that to like blue or green. But with how many black pips we have in our hand right now, I wanted to make sure we had enough black sources. So opponent plays Keldon Strike Team and smacks us for a ton of damage. We attack back. Knocked him to 14. What do we play? Figure they have so many X1s that Captain's Call seems like a pretty good card. But Phyrexian Warhorse is more mana efficient at this point. And we're losing a life from our rare land. That land is just too nerfed. Like, this is pretty bad though. Claws of Gix means they're gonna get us to discard our nice creature, and yeah, then they have, you know, a tutor on the second chapter. So opponent wisely enlists their Faith Bonder to make it a big threat, and we just cash in our Warhorse at this point. That's going to keep happening if we don't stop it. So end up attacking with both. Chip them down to 11, and Captain's Call feels nice here. We got a lot of X1s. Holding on to Bone Splinters because our X1s block, or sorry, our 1-1s block their 3-1 very nicely. Opponent does get the tutor card in their hand, but loses 3 life, so it's not nothing. Block their 3-1 down successfully. And they cast Drag to the bottom, wiping the board. So we play a 3-2. And here's where things get nasty because they get a free creature back with Cruelty of Gix. Alright, so they get our Vampire from us and they play a Writhing Necromass. So we have a handful of removal spells. One of them is Bone Splinters though, which is sort of tough. But opponent's massing a little army there. And the problem is every creature we kill will grow the Vampire. But decide to not take any risk and just blow up the Necromass now, in case they have like Take Up the Shield or something to completely blow us out. So I had an upkeep stop set, but decided to do it end of our turn. Molten Monstrosity is another problem. So opponent sends him with everything. Because creatures dying just grows the Vampire even more, so we block one of them, take a bunch of damage, the Vampire grows, and we're in a real tough spot here. So I'm thinking about it, and I definitely want to use the Arrest on the Vampire. The reason is because that's actually our creature, so if the Arrest dies, we get the Vampire back. So wanted to make sure we did it that way. And then we can't deal with the 5/5 trample, so we have to just Bone Splinters it and just hope that the opponent has nothing and that we can draw out of this against a 1/1. So both of us at 8 life, they have a 1/1. Let's see what happens. And they don't have anything, and we draw Cult Conscript. So that's nice because it can outrace the 1/1 at this point in time. Opponent plays Garna. That is a problem. It's a big creature, and it's going to make all their creatures drain us eventually. So draw a swamp there, which is not ideal. And it looks like this one has just slipped away from us. Yeah, so if we, we're taking 5. And they have the top spell, so we're dead. So that was a tough loss, especially after that hard-fought win against Defenders. So, but on to the next one. Llanowar Stalker, okay. But a very aggressive creature, so let's see how much trouble we're in. Alright, and they play an Axe. Another creature there would have been much worse for us, but the axe could cause us problems because it makes all their threats reasonable. It's like a worse bone splinters. But we play the semi-herbalist in hopes that it can attack in and gain us some life, but opponent just uses bite down to take it out. Honestly, not unhappy about that. It's not the most important creature to our plan. Now, plenty of both colors. End up choosing blue here to juice up Artillery Blast, just in case. We don't really want to use it on this 1/1, but they're green. They might have some really big creatures, so we might be able to use every basic land type we can get for our Artillery Blast. Like on that thing. The Gloom Widow is a problem. It's strong and has some natural recursion. Cult Conscript is actually pretty nice there because we could slip that in the curve somewhere, but decide just to play a Warhorse to attempt to trade with the Gloom Widow. Didn't feel like we had the luxury of just waiting out to cast them both for 5 mana, so they equip up their elf. We block the Gloom Widow. Pump spell here would be devastating. And they had it. Colossal Growth is a really strong card. In fact, most of the pump spells in this, or many of the pump spells in this format are really strong. So that's pretty devastating. We're already at 8th life, and our stupid rare Painland is just not helping things. That gate card, man. Is the color fixing worth it? You have to ask yourself. Alright, so they send him with both. Fortunately, we can trade with both of them, but we've taken so much damage. You know, Gloom Widow can come back. You know, we play our Cult Conscript, and we have our Artillery Blast. We're hoping, yeah, so they use mana to equip up their creature. And they send in, and we're really hoping they can't pump spell slam dunk us right now. But we do get the kill with Artillery Blast. Do they have a follow-up? Knight. That is a big problem, because they can just sink a bunch of mana to it to outgrow it, or even our double block we have waiting. So go ahead and kick the Balduvian Atrocity. We have the Herbalist, which can attack and scry and gain us a life. Except that the Knight prevents the life. Destroy Evil. You know, because the Knight can pump itself up to be that tough. It doesn't kill the Spider. End up bottoming it. That might have been a mistake, because we might have been able to get them with the Knight at some point. So either way, really tough spot, but looking back, maybe should have kept that Destroy Evil on top. So they play a 2/5 and end up passing. And really wish we had that Destroy Evil still. So like I said, I think that might have been a mistake bottoming that card. So, but happy to have the 3/3 flyer. But we're in a very precarious spot right here, because that Knight by itself is just a big problem. Okay, so they play another 2/5, but just don't have really good attacks. So we're in a pretty bad spot. Our best hope is to try and hurry up and kill them. So we send the flyer in. Gloom Widow comes back. Thankfully, it's tacked. Okay, so we draw Shadow Prophecy. So we're going to have to look pretty deep. 4 cards. But we have to give up 2 life to do so. But decide to fire it off in case we find like a removal spell or something clutch to help us this combat. So we have a pretty juicy 4. Extinguish the Light is real nice. And Captain's Call would be nice. Trying to think of like the mana situation right now also. Because we're just in desperation, but we're so close to dying. So I end up taking the captain's call, and it's like, do we play the 1/1s now, or do we extinguish something? Really tough call. So end up extinguishing the knight, because with the knight dead, we can actually gain the 3 life from the spell. Though maybe it was better to extinguish the trampler and skip the life. Either way, opponent has us in a tough spot. But that was the justification for killing the knight, was to try and get the life gain. And they just draw another one. Alright, so Axe on the Gloom Widow is a big problem. So opponent's thinking about their attacks. And yeah, so this is more of a hopeful thing, but I think they essentially just have us dead, right? Oh, yeah, not exactly dead, because we can block in this manner and fall to 1. And yeah, so we could play Captain's Call. Problem is we have that huge trampling spider, so we just can't really toss enough toughness in front of it at this point with our low life total. Like, we're only a couple attacks away from killing him with our vampire. If that spider didn't have trample, we might have a chance. Okay, so the opponent plays Bog Badger. I initially didn't realize this, but Bog Badger gives your whole team menace. So I set up the blocks, but it's no good. I thought it just gave 1 creature menace, so we're mega dead there. On to the next game. That was a tough hand. End up mulliganing, and it's feeling pretty tough right now. We're sitting at 1-2 and having to mulligan in the next game. So that turns out that was a very crucial decision. We have 4 lands, and right away we draw land number 5. So I was panicking about not having enough mana to cast our war horses, so I put one of them on the bottom. That was rough, but yeah, we have a nightmare play from the opponent. They have a Neshoba Brawler turn 2. Very punishing to our slow hand, and we're really wishing we had that extra Phyrexian Warhorse that's on the bottom of our deck now. So a very hopeful artillery blast here. Really hoping they don't have a pump spell. Hoping, wishing, and it works. That might have been game over right there if they had a way to stop that. So opponent doesn't make further plays. We're expecting like an Essence Scatter here, but we'll play a Griffin Protector, and it resolves. Okay, so opponent has some joint exploration, so instant speed card draw. Plays an additional land, so could start facing the big green creatures already. Yep, here's one of them, 2/5. Not super concerning though, but we just cannot stop drawing lands. But we have our Phyrexian Warhorse, which is a little wombo combo with the Griffin Protector. Get 2 triggers off it and smack them for 4, so that feels pretty good, but we're going to need some non-lands at some point. Like I said, that Phyrexian Warhorse on the bottom of our deck, really wishing we had that and draw another land. So Ascendant just with the Warhorse, really trying to clear the skies for our flyer. But opponent's worried about tricks we might have and the Warhorse's natural ability. So we just play our gate on red, because we have the Archangel still that can kick for red. Is also the Balduvian Atrocity, so they attack him with their 3/3 and their 2/2, or sorry, their 2/5. We have no responses. And they play another 3/3 flyer. Okay, so we do draw Balduvian Atrocity, but we don't have any creatures in the graveyard. But I mean, we have what we have, so we're just gonna run it out. So we have an attack in with the Griffin, and deciding to try and race the opponent at this point, because they don't have any good blocks here. They fall to 7. You know, we're under a lot of pressure as well, but we're trying to keep the pressure on them to make it so they can't hammer us as much, but they just send in with their 3/3 flyers, their fairies. We can't do anything about it. An opponent plays the Hexbane Turtle. Passes, and another land. Oh my goodness. These are very agonizing games. You know, we had to mulligan, and then we get flooded on top of that, so really tough situation. Now opponent decides to you know, they're contemplating double blocking the Warhorse or the Atrocity. So we're happy just to trim one of the creatures off their board, hoping they don't have a combat trick here. And decide not to sacrifice the one. Like, we could try and, you know, boost the Warhorse to take down the 2/5, but I'm happy keeping the 1/1 and just taking out the turtle. So we dropped him the 3. You know, we might be able to. We have a menace creature. We have a flyer. You know, we might be able to sneak in that damage. The opponent's considering their attacks. Thinking about just the 2/5 coming in. And they end up passing, fixing some mana and casting Vortuck Bone Rattle, which is a big problem because they just get their Neshoba Brawler back, and now opponent has a ton of creatures, and we draw another land. So you see what I mean by how torturous it was to bottom that Phyrexian Warhorse, because we just need cards. We need literally anything besides lands at this point. So no attacks there, but I mean, opponent has flyers, they have tramplers. It looks like we're done for. The opponents think about their attacks, and they're thinking about it, calculating, and they send the whole team in. Still thinking about it. Thinking. Yeah, so they commit to sending the whole team. So 5 attackers come in. I'm trying to figure out how to navigate this, like, with the hopes that we can maybe kill them next turn, you know. But it seems incredibly unlikely. So trying to figure out the blocks, and end up blocking in this manner. So we fall to 1 life, draw another land because, of course. But I figured they have to have something here. But they don't. And we win. That was an absolute miracle right there. I was astonished. I was like dumbfounded for like 5 minutes after that game. Could not understand how we won that one. We were on the cusp of a 1-3 right there. Like, we should have lost that game. So I don't know how to explain it, but we made it through, and we're on to the next game right here. With a reasonable hand. The question is, do you run out the Atrocity here for like no kicker value? I'm a little worried about feeding into their Essence Scatter, potentially. So decide, just run out the Atrocity anyway. And it resolves, so that's nice. That makes our equipment a lot stronger on turn 4. Okay, opponent has Dragon Whelp. Phyrexian Warhorse will be nice. It's a good turn 5 play, so decide to play the equipment. And by putting it on the Vivisector, allows them both to attack, because the Atrocity has Menace. So already they fall to 12. And it feels pretty nice. Alright, they pass, no attacks, no nothing. I'm trying to figure out what to do, and end up going into combat here. Sending bolt, like we could get blown out by something, but would like to play the Warhorse. That's why I didn't play the removal spell. So knew this is a possibility where they can just block and then use fire breathing on the whelp. Okay, so opponent decides to block and then removal spell. And yeah, that's perfectly fine. They gain some life, but we get a scry. Get that land out of here. We're sick of seeing those from last game. But we get 2 damage through, and we get to kick a Warhorse. Not only that, but opponent still only has 1 creature in play, and we have the equipment to start making life terrible for them. No play again from them. Decide to attempt to use Citizen's Arrest on it, because it could just crack the game open without them having that blocker. And put the equipment on the most expendable creature. But yeah, they don't have any responses, so they must have like a poor mana situation, you know, color screwed or something going on. But yeah, we get the win, so happy to see that. Snap off this keep, though it's pretty sketchy because we actually don't have the requisite white mana for Aaron. We do thankfully draw a 3rd land for our dwarf, our Vanguard. Oh, but we do have Vivisector in there, so we do have a 2 mana play, so that is fortunate. But Caves of Koilos is going to be clutch for us here, giving us that white mana. Alright, so the opponent plays the Berserker. I've not been too impressed with that card. I have not used it myself, but every time I've played against it, it hasn't seemed great. Now, I know it's likely opponent blocks this, because they probably don't mind us cashing a trick, but sometimes I like doing this to see how crucial that card is to their strategy. Like, are they so scared to block it that they won't just go for it? So that's why I attacked right there. Alright, no play from the opponent. Decide to just run out Ratadrabic, knowing it could be countered, but the reason I did that is because that makes an attack with Aaron even better, because if they somehow kill it in combat, we get Ratadravic's triggered ability and we get like the zombie version of Aaron back. So that's why I did the Ratadravic pre-combat. So this is a pretty clear no block. Like, we have a high life total. We don't want to feed into any crazy combat trick. And yeah, so opponent is mana screwed over there, and or holding up a trick. But we play the Vampire Connoisseur because, you know, if it resolves, any creatures they kill will just add counters onto it. So we send it with everything. Take the damage once again. So yeah, opponent was just victim of mana screw here. So they finally find a 4th land. Is it in time? Play 1/1 haste. Pass. And we draw Citizen's Arrest. It's been really good for us every time it's appeared. And I'm trying to, you know, I don't want to like overextend, but at the same time want to kill them before they have time to draw themselves out of this. So use Citizen's Arrest on that. I know they have the pump up for the Viashino, but I'm okay with them using all their mana for that. Like, they can block Ratadravic, pump, but they're basically dead anyway. Now, instead, opponent tries to do Furious Bellow. This actually ends up killing them when they would have survived if they just activated the natural pump, because they're going to block Ratadravic. But the first strike damage is going to kill it, giving a counter to our Vampire, which then brings it up to exactly 9 damage. So now they're actually dead. On to the next one. That was a little bit of a sketch hand. This is also not great, but we're going to keep it. We have some plays. Sengir Connoisseur being double black and 5 mana seems like the card to put back here. And this is the game where Thran Portal is nice because we are desperate for the mana. So go ahead and play it here. Okay, so we play a Semi-Herbalist. The pain over and over and over again will add up, so that is a huge downside, but we can at least cast our spells. Alright, Yavimaya Iconoclast kicked, and they send with everything, so trying to decide what to do. We could trade with their 1-2, but if the Herbalist attacks, we get to gain a life and scry. None of that, but we know with our Artillery Blast we can take down the Iconoclast. It's like busting rhymes talking about these cards. We have a tap line, so we're never going to play it like that. And let's see, Destroy Evil. Playing against green, yes please, keep that up there. So feeling a lot better about this game. Dragon Whelp. Attack in again, but it's just not a lot of damage. Now fortunately Dragon Whelp gets past the Destroy Evil, but we could play Ratadravik, have a nice big blocker / threat at the ready. And the Ward 2 on Ratadravik is just so nice. It makes it a real pain to interact with for them. One observation I've had is Ward is definitely much better than Hexproof, like gameplay wise. Like you can interact with it more. But I think because it's better, they've been using it a lot more, and so it feels like every other creature has Ward 2 these days, and it's annoying in that sense. Now we have the Destroy Evil to take out their 4 toughness creature, so we don't have a clean way to deal with the flyer, and it can, with fire breathing, kill us pretty quickly. So use Bone Splinters on the Dragon Whelp, Destroy Evil on the 4/4, and now we can send in with Ratadravik. 2 Phyrexian Warhorses in hand is great because it makes drawing an untapped land not horrible because we just kick them. Okay, so a good no block there because would have lost a lot of life. So now I decide to use Extinguish Light on their creature. They're empty-handed. We get to gain some life, and now they're not gonna, like, one combat trick away from like killing us somehow. So that was the rationale there, even though that creature's not the biggest threat in the world. And just run out a Warhorse here. We do have to pay a life from that stupid gate. But we're trying to kill them before they can like recover because they're flooding out right now. Archangel is amazing here. Alright. Knock them to 3. I'm trying to decide, do I play Archangel? I decided just to play another Warhorse. Actually, Cult Conscript to avoid losing more life. So opponent just flooded out at the worst possible time. I see Outrider and I instantly panic, but realize they only have 4 types, so we survive at 1. Wow, so opponent almost snatched it away from us right at the end there, but we're able to just attack in and lock up that win. Next game. This is an amazing hand right here. Turn 1 Cult Conscript. Turn 2 Goblin. We just need to draw some lands to keep deploying stuff. No play, always good to see. Aeron could be really good if we draw a white source. Play the Goblin, and we're just aggroing them out. And what a clutch draw there. Plains so that we can play Aeron and just continue the beatdown. I was expecting to get Essence scattered there, but it resolves. Opponent's in big trouble here. Alright, so they have a Geyser that buys them time, but they're still dying really fast right here. So we just run out Aeron again. Smack them for 4 damage. They didn't even get the life gain kicker on the Geyser last time. Alright, so they have another Geyser. Sure, they're still just dying on board though, so we just don't mind at all. Just play it again. Groundhog Day over here playing Aaron every single turn. Well, they play Geyser every turn, so. Alright, so they play Warhorse. But opponent's in pretty bad shape here. Decide it's a good turn to use Citizen's Arrest just to keep the pressure on. They have a decent block against one of our X1s here, but honestly, like, they're about dead anyway, like, with the Menace and the creatures we have going on. Not only that, but we have Destroy Evil in hand, so depending on what they play, they could just be super dead. Alright, so they play Lookout and Vivisector. And you'll notice that we have Griffin Protector plus Captain's Call in hand. That's a little combo. Considering Warhorse, trying to think of how to attack. Cult Conscript's getting in there because, you know, it's just a recursive threat. You know, we don't care if it dies, but they have to deal with it somehow. So opponent blocks it. Scry to the bottom. And end up kicking Warhorse. It's more mana efficient. None of that, but Warhorse is like a must deal with threat on its own. Like, they just can't let it go unblocked. And, you know, especially with the Menace creature Aaron out there. But they have Necromass, and that's exactly what we wanted to see, because now we get to snipe it with Destroy Evil. And that's game right there. So, feels pretty good to win a few games. Keep a pretty good hand. Have all of our colors. No creatures, but except for what we just drew, which was actually very timely. Alright, no plays from them. So many colors of mana up that they could cast anything. Worried about Essence Scatter. Maybe I'm overly paranoid about it. But we have nothing really else to do, so I just play Aaron. Alright, so opponent actually plays Shadow Prophecy. Taking 2 damage, drawing some cards. So they get some great selection. We could see that they binned another Shadow Prophecy. Alright, Warleech is just a 3/3 currently. I have not been impressed with the Warleech. Just doesn't seem like it's ever very good. We get our attackers in, and it's always a question of, do you play it the gate for one of the colors you know you have, or do you try and juice up your like Artillery Blast? So the kick fires a victory, get a card, kill Aaron. We get a scry for our troubles. Get that Plains out of here. And yeah, we get to attack them with the Phyrexian. Play some tokens. We're a little bit lean right now. Would like some more action. Opponent has a completely stocked hand. And they play Solkanar, which has a bunch of abilities, and they get to shoot down our Vivisector. Another Plains, get out of here again. So we're not too worried. For mana efficiency here, and you could see this is why you play the gate on black for turns like this. It allows us to Bone Splinters away Solkanar, which does 2 things. It gets us a counter on our Vampire and clears the way for a tiny little attack. So it feels good having Destroy Evil backup, but I mean, opponent has a lot of cards and a lot of mana, so it's definitely not over. Alright, so they extinguish the light, our Vampire. And Nightmare Scenario, Urborg Repossession back Solkanar, and a Flowstone Kavu. And we draw a Faith Bonder, which is just not strong enough to deal with what they have going on. Yeah, you can see me setting some stops for Solkanar to try and kill Solkanar. The opponent has a Territory of Morrow, Flowstone Kavu, and I mean, Solkanar is a problem, but so is an 8/8 creature. So decide to just blow up the Morrow right here. But this one really feels like it's slipping away. Like we just haven't been able to close, like stick a closer creature. Atrocity is okay. Would have liked to draw something a little better. Where's our Archangel when we need it? But this allows us to smack in for a bit of damage with a hasty temporary Aeron. Would have loved actually one more open mana to like activate Aeron instead. Put a bunch of counters, so we do get them to 2 life, but they still have Solkanar. And they shoot down our Atrocity, which is like our best threat since it had Menace. Writhing Necromass is good, but we're still in trouble here, which is tough because we had them at 2 life. We are so close to closing it out. We just need something. Solkanar gets to do something else, draws them a card. Alright, so they cut down the 1/3. That was tough because that was the turn I was going to enlist the 1/3 with the 5/5 to... But instead they just get to trade Solkanar off, and they've already gotten their value. They wanted to get rid of it anyway, so that was a fine trade for them. Would have been a lot better sending in the 1/3 as a 6/3 that turn. But we can't block, we can't do anything, so they're just getting a big Flowstone Kavu hit in. We'll play Battlefly. Ratadrabic is something, so our hope has not completely run dry, but it's just looking grim still. Alright, forced the... Oh, they traded with their Battlefly. We played Ratadrabic. You know, it's a decent creature. It has Ward and Vigilance. Not a good sign they're sending in the Kavu, though. It means they're not scared of Ratadrabic. Not only that, but the Kavu is just a nifty creature. It's going to kill us really quick with its Flowstone ability. Herd Migration. Yeah, that will probably do it. You could see my timer running low because I'm running through scenarios, but we're just so close. Almost had enough mana to play the Vanguard and hold up the activation, which would have made blocking for them a little more annoying. Or at least attack. Yeah, anyway. We just sort of ran out of gas. The opponent was able to leverage their card advantage they've been accumulating. So we block an Elephant token. The reason I'm still holding on is because if we draw Archangel, we can just deal the damage directly to them for the win. Any of these turns, Archangel would do it because it can deal direct damage. But they have the Outrider, and they kill us. So yeah, so this was a fun draft. Very happy we went 6-3, and we were very nearly 1-3 with this deck. So just wanted to show, you know, that's how close you can get to losing on these. Anyway, thank you for watching, and hope you have a wonderful day.